Hello and welcome back to my classroom. As you can tell by the headline here, this is Windows 11 Pro and Home Instructions. But in this video, we're going to talk about customers and maybe you, someone viewing my channel, still using Windows 10, still on the fence about switching over to Windows 11. You have to do it by October the 14th, 2025. And what's going to happen? Well, your operating system in Windows 10 will no longer be secure. So you have to make the switch. And in most cases, not all cases, but most cases, your computer is not upgradable to Windows 11 for a lot of reasons. So that means you're going to have to either buy a refurbished computer, and there's nothing wrong with buying a refurbished computer as long as you buy it from a reputable person or company, but you can get snookered into buying something refurbished that's an absolute piece of junk. So be very careful. And all of the websites anymore, Amazon, Walmart, Best Buy, Office Depot, just to name a few, they're all allowing sellers to use their website name. Of course, they're charging them a fee to sell their products through Walmart, through Best Buy. But that doesn't mean the computer's any good. Okay? So here's the things you need to look for or stay away from. Windows 11 requires a solid state drive, and if you've got Windows 10 right now or any of the past operating systems, you probably do not have a solid state drive in there for the hard drive. You probably have a HDD drive, and the reason why is because solid state drives until the last few years was not affordable for most people because there wasn't a glut of them on the market, and they were very expensive. So we'll go back to Windows 8, 8.1 and beyond, Windows 7 beyond. I never worked on a computer that had a solid state drive. How long have I been doing this? Since 2003. Been troubleshooting computer problems. So I started using a computer even way before that. Before there was actually Windows, I used a computer that was in DOS, operated only in DOS, which is the black screen that you see when you boot up your computer. So that's where everything's programmed to this day. Microsoft, when they do security updates, they download them when you're on the internet, so they download them in Windows, and it starts the install process in Windows, but eventually you have to restart the computer in order for it to finish doing the updates in DOS before it'll boot back into Windows. So I got off a little bit off track right there, but okay, so we're going to go back to what to look for when buying a different computer with Windows 11 Pro or Windows 11 Home. So the kind of difference, a little bit of difference between Pro and Home. Pro was designed for businesses and Home was designed for homeowners. I've always used Pro, not because I'm a business, it's just what I've always used. I can't, as a computer troubleshooter, I can't really see much difference between Pro and Home for the operating system. So it doesn't matter whether you buy Pro or Home, is what I'm getting at. But here's what does matter. Make sure it has a solid state drive in it. SSD stands for solid state drive. They are actually selling computers still that have got an HDD drive and they're putting Windows 11 on them. Do not buy those computers because they're slow. The HDD drive is what we've used since they created computers way back in the beginning. We've always used the HDD drive. But because of Windows 11 being so huge and so fast, it does not work very well with Windows HDD. The bad news is there are companies, and I know for a fact that one of my customers bought a brand new computer from Best Buy with Windows 11 with an HDD drive. I think that should be against the law because they're so slow. Microsoft does not recommend an HDD drive, so how could they sell it in good faith with the HDD drive? But they did. So I think they shouldn't, and you should not buy a computer with an HDD drive. Just don't do it. Why? Because they're slow. Buy one with a solid state drive, SSD. They're blazing fast. Now, what processor should you buy? I love Intel processors. They're fast. I've never had a problem with them. I started out with a Pentium. I graduated to an i3, but I don't even recommend those two anymore because in the scheme of things, they're slow. So I recommend an i5, I stands for Intel, i5 processor, or an i7 processor, or an i9 processor if you can afford it. They've actually made a processor that's in between the i7 and the i9 called an Ultra. And now they've also made an Ultra 7. Super crazy fast. For the typical person using the computer, you don't need it that fast. I recommend to my customers an i5 or an i7 computer. It will do absolutely everything you want it to do with a solid state drive. Now, that's important on the size of the drive. If you do a lot of things like I do, I have a lot of programs that I work with. So, and then I've got some customers that use Paint Shop Pro or what's it called? Adobe Photoshop. Those take a lot. So I would recommend in that case a bigger hard drive, a 1 terabyte hard drive or bigger, but a 1 terabyte holds a whole lot of stuff, and so I would recommend a 1 terabyte hard drive. If you just use the computer to access email, go to Facebook, play a few games, you don't need such a big hard drive, because most of the games you can play nowadays are online. You don't have to buy them and download them to your computer. But if you have to do that, you ought to think about buying one with a bigger hard drive if you have to download the game to your computer. So the question always comes up, can I play my older games that I used to play in Windows 7 and Windows 10? Can I play them on Windows 11? The rule of thumb is this. Usually they will install. And in the past operating systems, Microsoft used to pop open a box that would say, this program is not compatible with this operating system, don't install. But they don't do that anymore. They will let you install it in Windows 11. Now the bad news is that, I'll say good and bad, but for me the bad news is, you install the program, it plays, everything's fine, you restart your computer, and guess what? Your computer won't restart. Why? Because that game was not compatible with the operating system. Shame on Microsoft for turning that feature off. That little pop-up box that would say, hey, don't install it here. This is not the proper place. So you can get in trouble doing that. And you can get not just games and with programs, you can get in trouble doing that as well. Games, you can get in trouble doing that. I put an older game on this Windows 11 computer, and I was really amazed that it played. Actually, I wasn't amazed that it played. I was amazed that when I restarted the computer, it didn't crash it. So that brings to mind make sure your computer is backed up to something you can hold in your hand. What am I talking about? Either an external hard drive, which is usually about the size of a 3x5 index card, or maybe a little bigger but not much, or a flash drive, which I sell flash drives. SanDisk is a good brand to buy, or PNY, and Western Digital is starting to make one now. So a flash drive is something you can hold in your hand. So what you do is you stick it in your computer, and you have to copy and paste or drag and drop. Copy and paste is a little bit easier. To copy your personal files to that external drive. So copy your any pictures, any music files, any documents that you would not want to lose before you be putting these old games on these computers, because if you have it backed up and then you install that game and then you restart and your computer won't restart, then you're in trouble. But because you have your stuff backed up, it's no big deal. You just have to kind of reset the computer, and then once it reloads, then you can put your personal files back into the computer because you've saved them to something you can hold in your hand. I'm getting a little off track here again, but so what computer to buy? I say i5 or i7. If you can afford it and you do a lot with the computer, then go for the Ultra 7, or i9 processor. You're looking for at least 8 gigs of RAM, 8 gigs of RAM, or 16 gigs of RAM. My computer has 32 gigs of RAM. So you can actually go even higher than that. But if you don't do a lot with your computer and all you do is email and Facebook and play some games and maybe go to Instagram or TikTok, just 8 gigs of RAM is fine for you. Okay? And so is a smaller hard drive. If you don't download a bunch of stuff to your computer, then a hard drive, you can do a 256 hard drive, which is small. But if you don't do a bunch with your computer, 256 is adequate. Next step up is a 500 gig. That's a double 256. Again, solid state drive only. The next step up is I jump up from a 500 to a 1 terabyte. They do make a 2 and a 3 terabyte, but those really get expensive. Makes the price of the overall computer go up. So the motherboard, the processor is the i5 or i7, the Ultra 7, or the i9. We got the RAM being 8 gig of RAM, no less than 8 gig of RAM. 16 is better, 32 is great. Anything above that's even fantastic. And then the solid state drive being either a 256, a 500, a 1 terabyte. I have a 1 terabyte, or even higher. I wish I had a 2 terabyte, but maybe someday I'll get one. But I have a lot of stuff, and I do a lot of things with the computer. So those are the computers that I recommend. Now, brand is important. Stick with name brand, like HP, which is Hewlett Packard, Dell, Compaq, which HP bought out Compaq, so now it's actually HP Compaq. I haven't seen a Gateway computer around for a while, so I don't even know if they're around anymore. I haven't worked on any for quite a while. There's Acer. That was my very first computer I ever bought, was an Acer computer, and they are still around. These are all PCs, not Apple products. I don't do Apple. A lot of people buy Apple, but once they buy Apple, they can't deal with me. I can't deal with their problems because I'm just not familiar enough with Apple. The people that I talk to that do have an Apple or Macintosh computer love them. They absolutely love them. Do they have the problems that PCs have? No, they claim they don't. So that's my recommendation on you need to upgrade to Windows 11 Pro or Home by October the 14th, 2025, when Microsoft will no longer do security updates for Windows 10. What does that mean? Well, your computer will still work, but it won't be secure anymore. Even though you may have a firewall, even though your network may be secure, even though you have virus protection, even though you have spyware protection, your overall computer's operating system will no longer be secure because Microsoft is no longer doing security updates for them. So in other words, if you go to your bank and log on after October the 14th and you're running Windows 10 or 8.1 or 8 or even 7 or beyond, I saw one the other day that had actually XP on it. Don't do any online banking. Don't buy anything with a credit card because it will not be secure. The bad guys can see what you're doing and they will steal your information and they will take all of your money. Trust me on that. I see it all the time. I hear about it all the time. It's scary to think that you would lose your life savings. But people do it. They just do it. I don't know why. The rule of thumb is this: do not allow anyone to connect to your computer unless you personally know them. So you get these people that maybe you get a phone, maybe you get a message. It's a fake message, but you don't know that. So you get this message on your computer screen that's got all kinds of bells and whistles going off, and it's telling you this is Microsoft to call this 800 number. It's not Microsoft. They don't do that. Don't ever fall for that. How do you make that box shut up? Call Keith. Call me. Call a computer tech. Call somebody you trust. They'll walk you through how to make it shut up, or they'll come to your house and they'll make it shut up. I can walk you through a fix. I'm not going to do it here, but I can walk you through a fix. So that's happened to my customers several times. And yeah, it's scary when it happens because everybody thinks it's Microsoft and it's not. Okay, so this is my opinion. The other people out there have their own opinions on computers. I've been working on computers since 2003. Like I said, I've been working on computers prior to that as well. For 4 years I did web pages. I just got bored with doing them, and that's why I decided to get into the troubleshooting aspect of it. Do I like Windows 11? I don't. But here's the thing. If you only do email, go to Facebook, go to TikTok, go to Instagram, access email, if that's all you do with your computer, you probably won't see any difference other than it'll be fast. But when you set the computer up, you have to give it a 4-digit PIN. Now that's something new. If a lot of people had their computer password protected if they had grandchildren or children that they didn't want on their computer. But if you don't have the Rugrats running around, then obviously you don't need that PIN. But in Windows 11 you have to have a PIN. They make you put in a PIN, and there's no way to turn that off. There's always ways around different things, but I'm not going to tell you those ways because it's not the right thing to do. I'm only going to try to guide you to do the right thing. Okay, so I've taken up enough of your time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to continue to do some videos. I've run across some issues that I've had with Windows 11, and I'll talk about that, I hope, in the next video. Thank you for watching, and God bless.